Gunfire echoed through the streets of Wilmington as smoke rose into the morning sky. Armed white mobs marched through the city, shouting, breaking windows, and dragging black men from their homes. Bodies lay in the dirt. Families ran in terror. By the end of the day, an elected government was gone, and an entire community was shattered. This was not a war zone overseas. This was America. And what happened next would be buried for generations. At dawn on November 10, 1998, Wilmington, North Carolina awoke to violence. White leaders, angry and organized, had decided they would no longer allow black citizens to share power. They came armed with rifles and hatred. Their first target was a black-owned newspaper called the Daily Record. It stood as a symbol of black success and free speech. The building was burned to the ground while crowds cheered. As the flames spread, so did the fear. White mobs moved through black neighborhoods, shooting anyone they believed stood in their way. Many people were killed, though the exact number was never recorded. Some say dozens, others say far more. Bodies were dumped into the Cape Fear River. Survivors hid in swamps or fled the city on foot. By sunset, Wilmington no longer belonged to the people who had voted for their leaders. Armed men forced the mayor and city officials to resign at gunpoint. A new government was installed without a single vote cast. It was a coup, and it worked. But this horror did not come out of nowhere. Just years before, Wilmington was one of the most successful black majority cities in the United States. Black citizens owned businesses, ran newspapers, and held political office. White and black residents lived side by side, uneasy at times, but under a lawful system. Black men voted. Some served as police officers, others sat on the city council. This terrified powerful white Democrats who had lost control after the Civil War. They wanted Wilmington back, and they were willing to lie, threaten, and kill to get it. Newspapers began spreading fear. They printed false stories claiming black men were dangerous and unfit to govern. White leaders held secret meetings. Militias were formed and armed. They told poor white citizens that their way of life was under attack. Many believed them. One article in the Daily Record challenged these lies, saying that black men were being unfairly accused. That single act of truth made the paper a target. It became the excuse the mob needed. In the weeks before the election, intimidation was everywhere. Black voters were threatened. Some were beaten. Many were warned they would die if they voted. Despite this, a biracial government still won the local election. That result sealed Wilmington's fate. The planners moved fast. They created a list of black leaders they wanted removed or killed. They set the date, November 10th. When the violence began, there was no help coming. The police joined the mob or stood aside. The state government did nothing. The federal government stayed silent. Wilmington was left to burn. By nightfall, black citizens were forced onto trains and wagons and pushed out of the city. Homes were stolen. Businesses were taken over. Families that had lived there for generations were gone in hours. The next day, newspapers called it a race riot, blaming black citizens for their own destruction. Schools never taught the truth. History books stayed quiet. The coup was successful because it was forgotten. But beneath the silence, the damage lasted. Wilmington would never again have a black majority. Voting rights were stripped away across North Carolina. Other states followed. What happened here became a blueprint for white supremacy across the South.
And the men who planned it, they were praised. Some went on to become governors, congressmen, and judges. The city moved on. The graves were unmarked. The river carried its secrets. And for over 100 years, America looked away. But one question remains. hanging in the smoke of that burning newspaper office. Who gave the order, and how high up did this coup really go? The bodies were still warm when the new leaders took their seats. Smoke hung over Wilmington as armed men guarded City Hall. The old government was gone, forced out at gunpoint. In its place stood men who had taken power through murder. And now, with the city silent in fear, they began rewriting reality itself. By the morning after the coup, white leaders moved fast. They did not want chaos, they wanted control. Militias patrolled the streets, stopping black citizens and demanding proof they belonged there. Many were beaten, others were arrested for no reason. Some were never seen again. Trains leaving Wilmington were packed with terrified families. Black men were told to leave or die. Women carried children with nothing but clothes on their backs. Businesses that had taken years to build were abandoned in hours. Homes were taken over by strangers. Wilmington's black middle class was erased almost overnight. Official reports claimed only a few people died. That was a lie. Witnesses spoke of mass graves. Bodies were dumped into the river to hide the truth. No full list of the dead was ever made. This was not an accident. It was done on purpose. The men who led the coup now called themselves heroes. They said they had saved the city. Newspapers across the state praised them. Headlines blamed black citizens, calling the massacre a riot. The truth was flipped upside down. At the center of it all was Charles Brantley Aycock, a powerful politician who helped plan the takeover. He would later become governor of North Carolina. Others involved would rise to high office as well. No one was punished, no one was arrested. The message was clear: violence worked. For black survivors, life became a nightmare. Voting rights were stripped away. New laws were passed to block black citizens from elections. Literacy tests and poll taxes spread across the South. What started in Wilmington did not stay there. This coup became a model. Other states watched and learned. If you scare voters enough, they stop voting. If you remove leaders with force, no one will challenge you again. Democracy, it turned out, was fragile. Years passed. Children grew up hearing lies in school. Teachers skipped over Wilmington. History books erased the truth. Survivors were afraid to speak. Some who tried were threatened into silence. By the early 1900s, Wilmington looked calm on the surface, but the damage was deep. The black population had dropped sharply. Businesses never returned. Power stayed in the same hands for decades. Families who had once thrived now struggled just to survive. Generations lost wealth, safety, and opportunity. The coup did not end in one day. It lived on in laws, fear, and silence. Then, nearly 100 years later, something changed.
In the 1990s, historians and journalists began asking hard questions. Old letters were found, personal diaries surfaced, eyewitness accounts, long ignored, were finally recorded. The story could no longer be hidden. Survivors' grandchildren demanded answers. How could the only successful coup in American history be missing from textbooks? Why were the killers honored while the victims were forgotten? In 2006, the state of North Carolina released an official report. It confirmed what black families had always known. The violence was planned. The government was overthrown. Innocent people were murdered. For the first time, the truth was spoken out loud. But truth does not heal everything. No one was brought to justice. No land was returned. No families were compensated. Apologies were quiet. Memorials came late. The scars remained. Today, Wilmington stands as a warning. Democracy can fall not just with armies, but with lies, fear, and silence. What happened here proves that history can be erased if people allow it. And the most disturbing part is this: the men who carried out the coup believed they were doing the right thing. They believed the country was on their side, and for a long time it was.
So the question is no longer just what happened in Wilmington. The real question is this: if it happened once, hidden in plain sight, could it happen again? The truth finally came out, but it came too late for the dead. In Wilmington, the streets were quiet now. Cars passed where armed mobs once marched. Children played where blood had soaked into the dirt. Most people walking those streets had no idea what had happened there in 1898, and for a long time, that was exactly how powerful people wanted it. When the state report was released in 2006, it confirmed the worst fears. This was not a riot. It was not chaos. It was a planned attack. White leaders had met in secret. They had written speeches, printed lies, and armed men. They had chosen violence as a tool to take power, and they succeeded. The report named names. It described how officials stood aside while people were killed. It explained how newspapers helped spread fear. It showed how the government failed its own citizens. For many families, this was the first time they saw the truth written down. But there was no courtroom, no trials, no prison cells waiting. The men responsible were long dead. Their statues still stood. Their names were still on schools and buildings. Meanwhile, the victims had no graves, no justice, and no voice. Some families returned to Wilmington years later. They stood where their grandparents' homes once stood. Nothing remained. The land had changed hands. The wealth was gone. What had been taken could not be given back. Others never returned at all. The coup did more than destroy a city. It changed the future. After Wilmington, black voters across North Carolina were pushed out of elections. New laws were passed to block them. Violence was no longer needed. Fear had already done the work. This pattern spread across the South. For decades, black citizens were locked out of power. Their voices were silenced. Their history was erased. Wilmington became a warning that no one was supposed to remember. But memory has a way of surviving. Community leaders began pushing for memorials. Teachers started telling the real story. Historians spoke openly. The silence cracked. Slowly, Wilmington's past stepped back into the light. Still, many people resisted. Some said it was better to forget. Others said it happened too long ago to matter. But for the families who lost everything, the pain never ended. Because this was not just history, this was a lesson. The Wilmington coup showed how easily democracy can be destroyed when lies spread faster than truth. It showed how fear can turn neighbors into enemies. And it showed how power, once stolen, can be protected by silence.
No foreign army invaded Wilmington. No outside force attacked. This came from within. That is what makes it so dangerous. Today, the city acknowledges what happened, but acknowledgement is not the same as justice. The past cannot be changed, but it can be remembered, and remembering matters. Because when a nation forgets its crimes, it risks repeating them. The men of 1898 believed they were untouchable. They believed history would protect them. For a long time, it did. But now, their story is being told. And it forces a final, uncomfortable question. If democracy once fell in Wilmington without consequences, if violence once replaced votes and was praised, if truth was buried for over 100 years, then how safe is it today? That question still hangs over Wilmington and over America. The silence was the final weapon. For more than 100 years, Wilmington lived with a lie. Streets were renamed. Schools honored the men who led the coup. Children grew up never learning why their city changed so suddenly. The killings were not denied, they were erased. And erasure can be just as deadly as violence. Survivors carried the truth quietly. Grandparents whispered stories to their families, warning them to be careful, to stay invisible, to never trust the system. Many black families taught their children one rule above all others: survival
meant silence. Because in Wilmington, speaking the truth once had cost people their lives. As the years passed, the damage spread beyond the city. The coup helped build a system where black voices were pushed out of power across the South. Laws were written to look fair, but were meant to exclude. Voting booths became barriers. Fear became policy. This was not an accident. It was a strategy, and it worked for decades. Even when civil rights laws were passed much later, the wounds remained. Lost land was never returned. Lost businesses were never rebuilt. Generational wealth never recovered. What was stolen in 1898 echoed into the present. When memorials finally appeared, some people asked why it mattered. Why dig up the past? Why reopen old wounds? But the wound had never healed, because justice delayed is justice denied. Wilmington's story matters because it breaks a dangerous myth, the myth that democracy always protects itself, the myth that violence cannot win in America, the myth that history always tells the truth. In Wilmington, lies won, guns won, fear won, and the cost was paid by innocent people. Today, the city faces its past more openly. Museums tell the story. Markers stand where blood was spilled. Names of victims are spoken aloud. It is not enough, but it is a beginning. Still, remembrance alone cannot protect the future. The real danger is forgetting how easily this happened. There were warnings in 1898, angry speeches, false news, calls to take back power, armed groups claiming they were protecting society. Many people saw it coming. Few stopped it. The lesson is not just about race, it is about power, about what happens when truth is attacked and violence is justified, about what happens when good people stay silent because they think it cannot happen here. It already did. Wilmington proves that democracy is not permanent. It must be protected. Every generation must guard it, because once it is taken by force, getting it back is never easy. The coup leaders died respected. The victims died forgotten. That is the imbalance history is still trying to correct. And that correction starts with remembering. Remembering the newspaper that was burned. Remembering the families forced onto trains. Remembering the bodies hidden in the river. Remembering the votes stolen at gunpoint. This was not chaos. This was not a riot. This was a coup. America's only successful coup. And it worked because people looked away. If this story shocked you, it should. If it made you uncomfortable, that means it matters. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it often follows the same path when warnings are ignored. Ask yourself this: what truths are being buried today? Who benefits from silence now? And what happens if we forget again? If you want more real American history that was hidden, erased, or rewritten, stay with this documentary series, because the most dangerous stories are not the ones we know. They are the ones we were never meant to hear.